The Grand Council chamber on Vexoria Prime had never seen such unanimity. 12 species, representing 47 star systems, stood in perfect agreement for the first time in recorded history. War. Glorious, righteous, absolutely justified war against the humans of Sol 3. I still remember the exact moment when Ambassador Krelth slammed his 17 tentacles against the obsidian table, his voice booming through the translation matrix. 1,000 years they have ignored our borders, our customs, our very existence. And now they send us this. He hurled a data crystal into the center projection field. The hologram materialized, showing what could only be described as the diplomatic insult of the millennium. A human vessel, painted in garish colors that hurt my optical sensors, had parked itself directly above our most sacred temple world. The message they broadcast on repeat. "Yo, space dudes, we're just vibing here. Nice planet you got. 10 out of 10 would visit again." Vibing. They called it vibing. High Magistrate Korvax of the Serpentine Collective rose from her coiled position, scales shimmering with barely contained rage. "My ancestors have maintained peace protocols since before your species learned to walk upright. Krelth, but this mockery of everything we hold sacred, this cannot stand." I watched from my position at the intelligence podium, mandibles clicking nervously. As chief strategic analyst for the combined fleet, it was my job to assess threats, and I had been trying unsuccessfully to assess the human threat for 3 standard cycles. The problem was simple. Humans made no sense. They had no unified government, yet somehow coordinated interstellar trade. They possessed weapons capable of cracking moons, yet used them primarily for mining operations and entertainment purposes. Their military doctrine, if it could even be called that, seemed to consist entirely of something they called winging it. Analyst Threx. Krelth's voice snapped me back to attention. "You have studied these creatures. Tell the Council why we should not be concerned about their military capabilities." I felt every eye, stalk, and sensor in the chamber focus on me. My third lung began hyperventilating, a nervous habit I had never quite overcome. "Honored Council," I began, pulling up my research files. "The humans possess approximately 15,000 combat-capable vessels scattered across 230 colonies. Their largest battleship, the UHSV Defiant, masses roughly 40 million tons and carries enough firepower to sterilize a continental landmass." Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the assembly. Good. They were listening. "However," I continued, "their command structure is, and I quote from their own military manual, more of a suggestion than a rule. Unit commanders routinely ignore direct orders if they, and again I quote, have a better idea. Their tactical doctrine includes phrases such as 'let's see what happens and hold my beer.' Primitive chaos," sneered Vix, the crystallite representative. I made a mental note of his overconfidence. In my experience, underestimating an opponent was the first step toward defeat. "Perhaps," I said carefully, "but I must note that in every simulation I have run, human behavior patterns prove, shall we say, unpredictable." "Unpredictable?" Krelth's laughter boomed like a plasma cannon. "They are disorganized rabble. Our fleets train for decades in synchronized combat formations. Our warriors study the ancient texts of warfare. Our strategies are perfected through generations of refinement. What do the humans have? Chaos and chemical propellants. Actually, they had fusion drives and quantum entanglement communication. But I decided not to interrupt. The Council had made up its collective mind. "We shall teach them respect," declared High Magistrate Korvax, her voice cold enough to freeze methane. "The combined fleet shall assemble at Nexus Point 7. We shall demand their immediate surrender and withdrawal from all contested systems. When they refuse, as they surely will, we shall demonstrate the price of insulting the ancient powers of this galaxy." The vote was unanimous. War would begin in 15 standard days. I should have felt triumphant. Our civilization had just united against a common enemy, something no one thought possible after the Schism Wars. Instead, I felt my digestive sac churning with unease. I had read too many human historical documents, watched too many of their entertainment broadcasts, analyzed too many records of their so-called diplomatic incidents. There was a pattern there, hidden beneath the chaos and irreverence. The humans had a saying I had encountered repeatedly in my research: "Talk softly and carry a big stick." Another one: "The best defense is a good offense." And most troubling, when in doubt, improvise, adapt, overcome. After the council session, I returned to my research station on the orbital platform above Vexoria Prime. My assistant, a young kleptarian named Riff, was waiting with the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, we have received the human response to our ultimatum," he said, his antennae quivering with what I recognized as suppressed amusement. "Already? We only issued it 4 hours ago." "Yes, sir. It came through diplomatic channels approximately 17 minutes after transmission. They seem to have been, and I am reading directly from our translation algorithm here, waiting by the phone." I opened the file. The message was brief, as human communications tended to be. "To whom it may concern, received your declaration of war, pretty formal stuff. Very impressive. We especially liked the part about righteous fury and ancient vengeance. However, we must respectfully decline your kind offer of immediate surrender. Instead, we would like to propose an alternative beer and barbecue at Outpost Gamma 7 next Tuesday. Bring friends, bring appetite. No weapons necessary, but feel free to bring whatever makes you comfortable. RSVP appreciated but not required. Signed, Admiral Marcus Reeves, United Human Systems Fleet." And yes, that is my real title. I read it 3 times, then 4. Then I pulled up my xenopsychology database and tried to determine if this was some sort of human negotiation tactic I had not encountered. Riff cleared his throat. "Sir, there is more. The humans have also sent a data package. They labeled it, quote, 'just so you know what you are getting into, here is our highlight reel.'" Against my better judgment, I opened it. The first file showed a human colony world under attack by the Ravager swarm, an insectoid species that had terrorized the Outer Rim for centuries. Standard doctrine when facing the Ravagers was immediate evacuation. Their numbers were infinite, their hunger endless, their tactics overwhelmingly simple. They simply threw bodies at any problem until it ceased to exist. The humans did not evacuate. The recording showed a human commander, a woman named Captain Elizabeth Drake, standing on the colony walls as billions of Ravagers approached. She was eating something from a wrapped package and consulting a handheld device. "Okay, people." Her voice crackled over the communication channel. "According to my calculations, and keep in mind I failed math twice in high school, we have about 47 minutes before they reach the walls. Defensive plan is simple. We make them regret every single step they take. Johnson, you got those experimental plasma mines ready?" A voice responded, "Captain, these things are highly unstable. The lab specifically said not to use them in combat conditions." "Johnson, did those eggheads specify what conditions we should use them in?" They said controlled laboratory environments only." "Ma'am, well, this is an environment, and I am controlling it, so that is close enough. Plant them 50 meters out. Detonate on my command." What followed was 3 hours of the most chaotic, improvised, and somehow effective combat I had ever witnessed. The humans used everything. Plasma mines, railguns, something called Claymore Roomba bombs that made absolutely no sense but worked horrifyingly well. At one point, Captain Drake personally led a sortie using modified agricultural equipment as battering rams. The Ravagers broke and retreated, something they had never done in 800 years of recorded conflicts. The second file showed a human merchant vessel, the Lucky Penny, encountering a Corsair raiding party. Standard procedure: surrender cargo, transmit distress signal, hope for rescue. The Lucky Penny did not surrender. Instead, the captain, an older man named Tobias Grant, hailed the Corsair flagship with a message that made my translation software doubt its own accuracy. "Gentlemen, I have had a very long week. My coffee maker is broken. My navigation computer has developed what I can only describe as an attitude problem. And my co-pilot just informed me that we are 3 days behind schedule for my daughter's birthday. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to turn around and leave. Or I am going to make this everyone's problem." The Corsairs, who had successfully raided shipping lanes for decades, naturally laughed and moved to board. Tobias Grant then did something that violated every known principle of space combat. He rammed them at full thrust with his cargo ship. The impact destroyed the Corsair flagship and crippled 2 escort vessels. The Lucky Penny miraculously survived with what Grant described as a few scratches and some interior decorating issues. When asked by investigators why he took such an insane risk, Grant simply shrugged. "They messed with my schedule. I watched 17 more files. Each one showcased human combat doctrines that ranged from brilliant to suicidal, often simultaneously. They fought with ferocity when cornered. Yes, but also with something else, something I could not quite name. It was not until the 18th file that I understood. The recording showed a human patrol encountering a distress beacon from a Vexorian science vessel, stranded in an asteroid field after a reactor malfunction. This was during the period of official non-contact between our species. Standard procedure would be to ignore it, maintain the diplomatic freeze. The humans did not ignore it. They spent 14 hours extracting the Vexorian crew from a rapidly deteriorating ship. They shared their food, their medical supplies, their water. The patrol captain, a young officer named Lieutenant James Parker, even gave up his own quarters for injured Vexorian scientists. When asked why they helped, why they risked diplomatic incidents and resource depletion for strangers, Lieutenant Parker looked genuinely confused by the question. Because they needed help, he said, as if explaining something obvious to a child. What else were we supposed to do? I sat back in my chair feeling my certainty crumble like a sand sculpture in a solar wind. The council thought they were declaring war on a disorganized, technologically inferior species. They saw the jokes, the informal communications, the apparent lack of discipline and assumed weakness. They were wrong. I had seen the pattern now. Humans did not fight wars like we did. They did not follow our carefully structured doctrines or our ancient tactical wisdom. They improvised. They adapted. They treated impossible situations as minor inconveniences and existential threats as problems to be solved with ingenuity and stubbornness. And most terrifying of all, they genuinely did not seem to understand why that was unusual. My communication console chimed. Another message from human space. Hey, Analyst Threx. Yeah, we know who you are. You have been researching us pretty heavily. And honestly, we are flattered. Anyway, we noticed your fleet is assembling at Nexus Point 7. Nice choice, good defensive position, solid supply lines. We are impressed. Just wanted to let you know we will be in the area next week. Looking forward to meeting you all. Bring snacks if you want. We are bringing popcorn. Should be fun. Admiral Reeves says hi and wants to know if you are allergic to anything. He is weirdly concerned about accommodating dietary restrictions during armed conflict. It is kind of his thing. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I began drafting my resignation letter to the Grand Council, because I had just realized something terrifying. The humans were not taking this seriously, and somehow, that made them infinitely more dangerous. The Grand Fleet assembled at Nexus Point 7 exactly as planned. 3,000 warships representing the combined military might of 12 species, arranged in the most perfect battle formation ever conceived. It was beautiful, really. Centuries of military tradition crystallized into geometric perfection. I watched from my station aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion, my resignation letter still unsubmitted in my personal files. High Command had rejected my request to delay the operation for additional reconnaissance. Ambassador Krelth had personally called me a coward. High Magistrate Korvax suggested I was suffering from information poisoning, too much exposure to human media corrupting my tactical judgment. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was seeing patterns that did not exist, extrapolating danger from cultural quirks and propaganda footage. Then the humans arrived, and I knew I was right. They did not arrive in formation. They did not arrive with military precision. They did not arrive with anything resembling proper fleet organization. They arrived like they were showing up to a festival. The first vessel to drop out of faster-than-light travel was a destroyer-class ship painted bright orange with flames along the hull. Actual flames. Decorative ones. The ship's name emblazoned across the bow in letters 3 stories tall read Probable Cause. Then came a heavy cruiser named Diplomatic Incident. Then a carrier called My Other Ship Is Also a Warship. Then a dreadnought, easily twice the size of our flagship, with the name Proportional Response written in what appeared to be hand-painted letters. Within 20 minutes, roughly 400 human vessels had arrived, each one seemingly designed by a different committee with wildly different ideas about military aesthetics. Some were sleek and modern. Others looked like they had been assembled from spare parts. One appeared to be an old colony transport, with weapons welded to every available surface. This is their fleet? Krelth's voice echoed across the command bridge. This collection of misfits and rejects. Sir, reported our sensor officer. A kleptarian named Voss. I am detecting massive energy signatures from all vessels. Their weapons are powered and locked onto our position, but they are not raising shields. Not raising shields? Krelth's tentacles writhed in confusion. Are they insane? Before anyone could answer, every communication channel simultaneously activated. The human admiral's face appeared on our view screens. Admiral Marcus Reeves looked exactly like his personnel file suggested, mid-50s by human standards, graying hair, wearing what appeared to be a standard military uniform with at least 40% more pockets than necessary. He was smiling. "Hello there." His voice was friendly, almost cheerful. "Grand Council forces, I presume. Excellent turnout. Really impressive formation work. We could see it from 3 systems away. Very intimidating. Very professional. I am Admiral Reeves, and this motley collection of troublemakers behind me represents the United Human Systems Fleet, Independent Colonies Defense Force, and about 17 different merchant protection associations who heard about the party and wanted to join." Krelth activated his response channel, voice dripping with contempt. "Human, you stand before the greatest military assembly in galactic history. We have come to demand your surrender and withdrawal from all systems within the protected zone. You have violated sacred spaces, ignored diplomatic protocols, and insulted the dignity of species whose civilizations thrived when your ancestors were still living in caves." Reeves nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, couple things. First, the cave thing is technically accurate, but feels a bit judgmental. Second, we did actually try to follow your diplomatic protocols, but honestly, they are like 3,000 pages long and written in 17 different languages, half of which do not translate properly into anything humans can pronounce. We gave it our best shot. Third, and this is important, we genuinely did not mean to park above your temple world. Our navigator thought the icon on the chart meant a scenic overlook. Completely honest mistake. You expect us to believe your violation of our most sacred site was an accident?" Korvax's voice cut in, cold and sharp. "I mean, would it help if I showed you our navigator's browsing history? Guy was literally searching for good spots to take vacation photos. He is really into religious architecture. Total space tourist. We actually fired him not because of the diplomatic incident, but because turns out he had been routing us past interesting landmarks for 3 years and adding like 15% to all our travel times." I watched the exchange with growing fascination. Reeves was not being flippant or dismissive, he was being genuine. The humans actually had not meant to cause offense. They were just catastrophically bad at following other species' rules. Krelth slammed his tentacles against the command console. "Enough. Your excuses mean nothing. You will surrender immediately, or we will open fire." "Okay, see, that is where we have a problem," Reeves said, his smile fading slightly. "We are not really the surrendering type. Tried it once back in our early history. Did not work out well. Learned our lesson. So here is my counter-proposal. We all power down weapons, send over some delegates, and talk this out over food and drinks. I brought a guy who makes this thing called brisket that will change your life, or your nearest equivalent to a life. Whatever. You dare mock us even now. Not mocking. Genuinely offering brisket. It is really good. We have been smoking it for 14 hours. The human fleet had not moved, had not powered shields, had not done anything except sit there, weapons charged but not firing, while their admiral offered barbic to an overwhelming enemy force. It was the most confident display of absolute lunacy I had ever witnessed. Krelth gave the order. All ships open fire. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for generations. The human fleet moved, not in formation, not in coordinated defensive patterns. They moved like each ship was independently controlled by someone who had completely different ideas about tactics. The probable cause executed a barrel roll that should have torn the ship apart, dodging 3 simultaneous plasma lances while returning fire with weapons I did not recognize. The diplomatic incident accelerated directly toward our main battle line, launched every missile it carried, then reversed thrust so hard I could see the structural stress on our sensors. The proportional response. That massive dreadnought did something I still cannot adequately explain. It split. The entire ship separated into 17 smaller vessels, each one operating independently, filling the space between our fleets with overlapping fields of fire. But the most shocking thing was not their tactics, it was their communication channels. We had intercepted their combat frequencies, expecting military discipline and coded orders. Instead, we got this. Jimmy, what the hell are you doing? I do not know, man. Seemed like a good idea. You just fired our entire missile complement at a recycling barge. It looked threatening. It is literally labeled Waste Management Vessel 7. Well, now it is waste. They were arguing, during combat, while executing maneuvers that should have required years of coordinated training. Our first battle line collapsed in 4 minutes. Not because the humans had better weapons or superior numbers. They did not. Our technology was more advanced in every measurable way, but they fought like every ship was its own entity, making split-second decisions that made no tactical sense but somehow worked. One human frigate, the acceptable losses, got surrounded by 6 of our heavy cruisers, standard doctrine, surrender or be destroyed. The captain, a woman named Victoria Wu, broadcasted on all frequencies. Hey, Fleet Command, I am in a bit of a situation here. Admiral Reeves' voice came back, defined situation. 6 cruisers, all sides, weapons charged. Can you handle it? Probably not. Want backup? Nah, let me try something stupid first. If it works, it will be hilarious. Then the acceptable losses did something that violated every principle of physics I understood. It activated its faster-than-light drive inside normal space, jumped exactly 14 meters forward, and reappeared inside the formation of surrounding cruisers. The spatial distortion from the jump disabled every ship within 50 meters, including the acceptable losses itself. Victoria Wu's voice came back on the channel. Okay, so that was 50% successful. I am going to need that backup now. Told you it was stupid, Reeves replied, but he was laughing. Our second battle line lasted 7 minutes. The third line broke and retreated after 12. I watched High Magistrate Korvax's face as the tactical display showed our forces in complete disarray. We had not lost many ships. The humans were deliberately targeting weapons and propulsion systems, disabling rather than destroying. But we had lost something more important. We had lost the initiative, lost our perfect formations, lost our carefully planned strategies. The humans had turned a military engagement into chaos, and they thrived in chaos. All ships fall back to defensive positions. Krelf ordered, his voice finally showing uncertainty. The human fleet stopped pursuing. Just stopped hanging in space like they were waiting for something. Admiral Reeves' face reappeared on our screens. He was still smiling, but there was something different in his eyes now. Something harder. Okay, she said quietly. We have demonstrated that this can go badly for everyone involved. Nobody has died yet. Let us keep it that way. I am going to say this one more time, and I really need you to hear me. We do not want war. We are happy to discuss the Temple World thing. We will even follow your protocols if you send us a simplified version. But we will not surrender, and we will not back down, because backing down gets people killed. And we really do not like it when people die over misunderstandings. You think this is a misunderstanding? Korvax demanded. I think this is 2 groups of people who have not talked enough, trying to kill each other over stuff that could be solved with basic communication and maybe some cultural sensitivity training. I think we can do better. Silence filled the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. I accessed my personal files and submitted my resignation. Then I did something that would probably result in my execution for treason. I opened a direct communication channel to Admiral Reeves. Admiral, this is Analyst Threx of Vexorian Strategic Command. I have been studying your species for 3 standard cycles. I believe I understand what you are attempting. Reeves's attention focused on my transmission. Go ahead, Analyst. You are not trying to win this battle. You are trying to prove you cannot be beaten without unacceptable losses. You are demonstrating that continued conflict serves no one's interests. Smart bug, Reeves said, and I detected no mockery in his tone. What gave it away? You have not fired on our command ships. Your weapons are more powerful than you have demonstrated. And you keep offering food. Food is important. Brings people together. Admiral, I need to warn you. The Council will not accept this stalemate. They will call for reinforcements. This will escalate. Yeah, I figured. That is why I brought friends. On my sensors, new contacts appeared. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They were not military vessels. They were colony ships, transport carriers, merchant freighters and civilian craft of every description. Each one broadcasting the same message: we stand with humanity. We remember who helped us when no one else would. I recognized some of the signatures. Vexorian science vessels, the same ones humans had rescued during the diplomatic freeze. Kleptarian trade ships that humans had defended from pirates. Serpentine medical transports that had received human aid during the plague years. Dozens of species, hundreds of ships, all willing to stand between the Grand Council and the humans. High Magistrate Korvax stared at the tactical display, her scales pale with shock. This is impossible. These species are council members. They cannot take sides against us. But they had. Because the humans had done something the council never thought to do. They had made friends. Admiral Reeves spoke again, his voice carrying across every channel. Look, we can keep doing this, or we can make a different choice. The universe is a big place. Plenty of room for everyone. Plenty of problems that need solving. We could spend our energy fighting each other, or we could work together. Your choice. But I am telling you right now, you do not want to fight people who care more about helping others than following rules. I watched Ambassador Krelth, watched the calculations running behind his eyes. Pride versus pragmatism. Ancient tradition versus modern reality. Finally he spoke. What are your terms? Terms? Reeves laughed. Man, you guys really do not get it. We do not want terms. We want teammates. The galaxy is full of problems. Pirates, rogue AI, that weird spatial anomaly in Sector 12 that keeps eating ships. The Ravager swarm is still out there, and I heard rumors about something big and scary building in the dark zones. We need allies, not subjects. We need partners, not servants. And if we refuse, then we part ways, and maybe we meet again under better circumstances. But I am offering you something better than war. I am offering you a chance to be part of something new, something that does not care about ancient protocols or who insulted who 1,000 years ago, something that focuses on actual problems instead of imaginary slights. The silence stretched for exactly 47 seconds. I counted. Then High Magistrate Korvax spoke, her voice carefully neutral. This brisket you mentioned, is the offer still available? Admiral Reeves' grin could have powered a small star. Absolutely. We have got enough for everyone. Fair warning though, humans take their barbecue very seriously. There will be debates about sauce, possibly arguments about proper smoking techniques. It might get heated. More heated than military combat. You would be surprised. 3 hours later, I found myself aboard a human vessel called the Reasonable Discussion, sitting across a table from Admiral Reeves, eating something called pulled pork and trying to understand how the galaxy had changed so completely in a single day. You know what your real weapon is? I asked him between bites. The food was against all my expectations, actually incredible. Our devastating good looks, Reeves replied. Your absolute refusal to take anything seriously, combined with your willingness to take everything seriously, you treat war like a negotiation and negotiations like a barbecue, but underneath it all you care about everyone. Even your enemies. That is not a weapon, analyst. That is just being decent. To you perhaps. To the rest of the galaxy. It is revolutionary. Around us, representatives from 12 species mingled with human crew members, sharing food and stories, beginning the slow process of transforming enemies into allies. It was messy, chaotic, and completely improvised. It was the most human thing I had ever seen, and against all logic, all tactical projections, all military wisdom accumulated over millennia, it was working. The 1,000-year peace was over. That much was true, but what came after was not war. It was something better. It was friendship served with barbecue sauce and sided with an absolute refusal to accept that differences had to mean conflict. The humans had not won through superior firepower or brilliant tactics. They had won by being so genuinely, stubbornly, impossibly themselves that everyone else had no choice but to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about how the universe worked. As I watched Admiral Reeves explain the proper way to apply dry rub to a colleague from the Serpentine Collective, I realized something profound. The humans had not just avoided a war. They had changed the entire galaxy's understanding of what was possible. And they had done it with jokes, improvisation, and really excellent barbecue. I took another bite of pulled pork and smiled with my mandibles. Maybe the next 1,000 years would be interesting after all. The end.